please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
This is Bazaar Morning Call.
I'm Anuj Singhal. With me, of course, is Sonia Shinoy. Latha is on leave today, but of course she'll be back tomorrow. This week, of course, we're going to talk about Gujarat elections a lot because we will have the second phase of voting, and by the end of the week, of course, we'll have the results as well. So, promises to be an interesting week. Hi, Sonia. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Yes, lots to talk about this week. Before we talk about the second phase, in the first phase, Anuj, it seems like the BJP is confident of at least retaining most of its seats. You think that would give a big fillip to the market?
Yes, Sonia, because the ground reports are indicating that it was a strong showing by the BJP in phase one, and these were the worries. These first phase was traditional BJP stronghold, which is where the whole talk about the middle class anger, the trader anger, the Patidar community issue. I think those were dominating, and I think the feedback that I got was that it was strong showing, and I think that in part maybe explain the move that we had on Thursday and Friday as well, because the market won't wait for the actual event. The market would sort of presage the event. So I think we had back-to-back good days on Thursday and Friday for our market, and maybe some more is left. Just keep an eye on global screen, because there's a bit of a Asian market issue here. But the larger perspective that I'm getting is that the market may have once again made a double bottom at 10,050 to 10,100, and the anecdotal evidence would suggest that new high should come soon for this market, Sonia. In fact, the mid-cap index could do that today itself. It's now within 0.8% of new high. And if you see the template of this market, the mid-cap index makes the first high, then the bank nifty follows suit, and then the nifty follows suit. That has been the template of this market. This template of one step back, two step forward that I keep talking about, that I think has been followed, and there's a good chance that you end the year with that kind of flourish as well. Also, FI volumes would recede from here, because towards the second half of December, some of them go on leave, and volumes come down. Most of them go on leave. So players, and we have seen the kind of domestic liquidity that we have. I think the ingredients are in place. Let me put it that way. The ingredients are in place for market to have a big rally, make a new high and a higher all-time high. But of course, in equity markets, you can't be certain. So let's see. I mean, if things change in the second half.
Absolutely. The sentiment has picked up definitely after the sort of consensus view came in on what phase one has thrown up with respect to the Gujarat elections. But the other big story that we're tracking is what's happening across the globe, right? It's an important week for us because you have the US two-day Fed meeting that kickstarts today, and that kickstarts tomorrow rather. And the US markets have been solid. They closed well on Friday. You had a strong jobs report which came in at 228,000, higher than estimated, and that gives you some expectations of a rate hike in the US FOMC. So that's something that the market will track as well, Anuj?
Yeah, I mean, once again, do we go into a phase of developed markets outperforming the emerging markets, Sonia? I think one more event that we will be tracking this week is this Bitcoin. Now that it will be trading on the futures, CME, on the futures exchange, I think whether you like it or not, it's going to be a big event, because there's a lot of sort of money which has moved, or which will start to move to this cryptocurrency kind of asset class. So I think that will be and this is one event which nobody knows, right? In the past you could talk about crude, you could talk about metals, you could correlate. You can't correlate this. So this is the first time that you'll have any kind of sort of correlation emerging. So I think that way it's going to be quite fascinating.
Okay, well, lots to talk about on the show today. So let's kickstart on that note. Let's take a look at what our wise experts have to say as we head into trade this Monday morning. Abhay Ledgerwala of Deutsche Bank says that mutual funds as a group are now overweight financials and utilities and relatively cautious on consumer staples, energy and consumer discretionary. At the stock level, Reliance, HDFC and ITC are the top three under-owned Nifty stocks, while ICICI Bank, SBI and HDFC Bank are the top three over-owned stocks. He also says the key under-owned stocks that have outperformed the Nifty this year: Reliance, HDFC, HUL, Asian Paints and Indiabulls Housing Finance.
Oh yes, phenomenal the way these stocks are moved. Let's get you some money market views as well. Pramit Brahmawat of Veracity expects the rupee to appreciate on the back of positive cues from domestic equity market. He sees a trading range for the spot USD INR pair at 64.20 to 64.80 against the dollar. That's quite a big range actually.
And Ajay Magnolia of Edelweiss says the positivity following the monetary policy review was very short-lived and gilt yields have touched fresh highs as the appetite remains poor. He expects the bond markets to begin this week on a watchful note with the inflation data release and the US Fed meeting scheduled for the middle of the week. As a result, Ajay adds that the activity might be subdued today and the 10-year benchmark yield may trade in a narrow range of 7.07 to 7.11% today. Okay, those are the expectations as we head into trade this morning. But the big story this morning, the final voter turnout in the first phase of the Gujarat election stood at 66.75%. Voting was held in 89 constituencies. Voting in the second phase for the remaining 93 of the state's 182 constituencies will be held on Thursday. So let's take a look at what all is at stake here. 89 out of 182 assembly seats went to polls. In 2012, remember, the BJP had won 63 seats and the Congress had won 22. 977 candidates are in the fray for the first phase. Saurashtra and South Gujarat went to polls. Saurashtra is where the impact of Hardik Patel, who was leading the protests against the BJP on the issue of reservation, is being felt strongly. Surat, which is a BJP stronghold or a fortress, so to say, has also seen protests by traders and businessmen against GST rollout by the Modi government.
Oh yes, and the Congress campaign, of course, has been most aggressive in this belt, hoping to encash on farmers' distress, Patidar agitation and protests against the GST. The key contest in the first phase was of Vijay Rupani, the incumbent chief minister in Rajkot West, and BJP Gujarat President Jitu Waghani and Congress stalwarts Shakti Singh Gohil and Arjun Modivadia. In fact, Chief Minister Rupani is facing a stiff test from Congress party's Indranil Rajguru, who is also the richest candidate in the fray. Okay, then that's of course the domestic setup, but what about the global cues? Here's Ronit with the world view.
So all green on my side, Anuj. The US indices all three closed in the green and the Dow and S&P hit another record high. So one of the reasons for this record high was the jobs report that came out last week. So the US added around 228,000 jobs versus an estimate of around 2 lakhs. So this indicates that the economy is growing at a much faster pace than estimates. Moving on, one key event to watch this week will be the US Fed two-day meet will begin tomorrow and they'll come out with their decision on Wednesday. Remember, the Fed has hiked rates only 4 times in the last 9 years. Moving on to European markets, the European markets as well closed dark green, largely because the UK and the European Union reached some deals on their Brexit negotiations. So this paves the way for their trade deals to go on. Now moving on to, see if you can see the UK and US both have finally agreed on it. Now moving on to the individual stocks, South African retailer, which is listed on the German stock exchange Steinhoff, fell 80% last week as accounting irregularities still continue for the firm. Remember, Moody's have also downgraded the stock to junk status. Finally, moving on to the Asian markets. The Asian markets also indicate green on your screen. As you see, only KOSPI a slight underperformer there, as well as the SGX Nifty indicates a green opening for today. Back to you.
Oh yes, it does. Thanks so much, Ronit. This morning we wake up to positive cues from across the globe. In fact, all eyes will be on the Fed Reserve. Later this week, they're expected to deliver the third and the final rate increase of 2017. And investors seem to not even blink an eyelid because of this. Most stock market investors are already factoring in a rate hike this time around. And in fact, the market itself is growing less dependent on a loose monetary policy in the US. So let's see how that plays out. But for now, our research team is here to tell you about the list of top 10 stocks that you need to watch out for as we head into trade this Monday morning. Let's welcome all of them. Anuj, what are you looking at?
Yes, Sonia. Well, before that, you know, the big rallies have happened after the rate hike from the US Fed. Yeah. So I think the emerging markets recognize that. We have had 2 back-to-back trend days, so it's not necessary that today also, you know, for starters, there could be some consolidation, but I think second half could be interesting. I think I'm watching out for all the PSU stocks today, Sonia, because, you know, once again, we're in that phase where market is rewarding high beta. RCF is a stock that I'm tracking. It's a you know, the government is going to unveil a policy on methanol blending in petrol. And I think RCF has been talking about restarting their methanol plant. And it's a stock which saw technically also big bounce from 50 and 20-day moving average. The other stock I'm watching out for is Shipping Corp. Again, a stock which bounced back from 20-day moving average. Very strong delivery buying on Friday. And it's a stock which is corrected about 12% from recent highs. And finally, Moil, you know, you're talking to Mark Mobius about, you know, commodity stocks doing well in India, especially the PSU stocks, commodity stocks. I think Moil saw big delivery buying on Friday, Sonia, and manganese ore, sort of virtual monopoly in a strong sector. So that would be my third stock to watch today.
Okay, lots of stocks Anuj is keeping on his radar today, so we'll keep tracking those for you. But let's move on. Our stock of the morning is Arvind, and Ronit is here to tell us why. Ronit, over to you.
Yeah, so CLSA upgraded Arvind with a target price of 538. Before they had a target price of 440. So it's a big upgrade coming in. So what they're saying is the proposed demerger of the brand and retail business should help create value, as well as the brand and retail business by FY18. Most of the brand should be positive operating profit. Finally, they value the textile business around 7.5 times EV/EBITDA, as well as the B&R business at 22 times EV/EBITDA. So on the back of all this, they expect a target price of 538.
Okay, that's a big upgrade on Arvind. Sonal, Jet Airways, the stock was down, of course, on Friday after the numbers, but analysts were pleased with the con call?
Yeah, they were, absolutely. There were quite a lot of positive takeaways from the con call. The company said that the capacity increased by 8% in Q2 FY18. Not only that, they have declined the net debt by 190 crores, and now the debt stands at around 7,800 crores. Not only that, the renegotiation of the various cost contracts will start reaping benefits from FY19 itself. All this has been really liked by the analysts. In fact, Edelweiss has raised the target price to 822 from 548 earlier, and they have upgraded the stock to buy. So I expect some breather for the stock today and expect it to be in the green.
Okay, big moves coming in from brokerages on some of these names. In fact, State Bank of India is not far behind. There's an upgrade coming on that as well this morning. Abhishek?
Well, Sonia, Goldman Sachs has upgraded SBI to buy from neutral and raised the target price to 396. So that is an upside of 26.5% from yesterday's closing price and about 26% from the previous recommendation. They have mentioned that SBI will benefit from improving asset quality cycle, and they have mentioned that, ROA, that is the return on assets, will improve to 0.95 by FY20 from 0.22 currently. So that is on the back of stable NIMs and moderation in credit costs. So expect the stock to be green today.
Okay, thanks a lot for that, Abhishek. Naveen, why are you watching for Ultratech Cement?
So they have expanded, they are planning to expand their greenfield capacity in Rajasthan, that is by 3.5 metric tons. Now understand one thing, they already have a capacity of 95 million tons. This is not a big expansion, but nevertheless it's important because the amount of the expansion is 1,850 crore, which is generally lesser than the general replacement cost. So in that way, that is important. Apart from this, the other important news is that the board has approved the FIR limit on the stock from 30% to 40%. So I expect the stock to be in green on the back of both these news.
Okay, lots of green stocks this morning. IL&FS Engineering is next on our list. Anisha will tell us why. Anisha, over to you.
Well, yes, a positive development for IL&FS Engineering, where the company has bagged around a 200 crore order. Now, this order is coming from Gas Authority of India, and this is for pipeline work of the company. The order has to be executed over a period of 15 months. Remember, the company has been winning quite a few orders lately, including the big-ticket orders like Zojila Tunnel. But now the focus moves on to execution and the balance sheet strength of the company. Nonetheless, for today, it should hold up in the green. Back to you.
Okay, thanks a lot for that, Anisha. Sonia, what about some of these auto ancillaries?
Well, I'm going to watch out for a couple of these auto ancillaries that declared their numbers. So you have 3 of them that came in post-market hours. In fact, names like Federal, Mogul, etc. have come out with their numbers. There it is. It's not a great quarter for them. Revenue is up just about 5-odd%. PAT is up about 8-odd%. Federal, Mogul at one point in time used to do about double-digit growth for consistently for many quarters. So on that account, it's a bit lackluster. But I still expect the stock to trade in the green. Sharda Motors is the other one. It's had a phenomenal run in its stock price, but you haven't seen that kind of up move as far as numbers are concerned. Revenue growth is good, about 17-odd%. Margins are largely flat for Sharda Motors. They were actually hit by higher raw material prices this time around. So keep an eye out on that stock. It's rallied significantly. And you also have UCAL Fuel that came out with their numbers. Over there as well, it's quite lackluster. If you look at it, revenue growth hardly 5% this time around. The margins were okay. 20% plus is what they saw in margins this time. But otherwise, you'd have to say just light green for some of these names.
Okay, of course, keep in context, the stocks have rallied a lot, so maybe the numbers not matching up to the rally. But Anisha, Tech Mahindra, there's a negative report from Citi?
Well, yes, Citi has a negative report with a sell rating, but the reason I've given green for the stock is because the company met the analysts and I don't see anything incrementally negative coming in. In fact, they say that the margins in the telecom business are going to improve in the quarters coming by. They are going to focus and invest more in the growth areas. M&A has been one of the important strategies for Tech Mahindra and they're going to continue to focus on that. The areas sectors that they mention in terms of focus are BFSI, healthcare, and horizontals like engineering services, etc. In terms of other key takeaways, they mentioned that right now more than 25% of the workforce in US are locals, and they're working towards increasing the same. But overall, why Citi maintains a sell is because they think at 15 times FY19, the stock is really not cheap. Most of the positives are priced in, but the only reason I perhaps see a green is because the sentiment is positive and there's nothing incrementally negative in the stock. Let's see how it reacts today.
Okay, thanks Anisha for that. One of the big underperformers, not just in the technology space, but overall in the markets, Tech Mahindra that is. Let's move on. Thyrocare came out with their numbers. The margins look good this time?
The margins are the biggest highlight, Sonia. So if you see, there has been a jump of close to 250 basis points at the margin. They came in at 41.5%. Why has this come in? Because their other income to sales ratio, other expenses to sales ratio, that has come at 20% versus 25% on a year-on-year basis. On the other hand, the PAT has also been strong at 23 crore versus 22.5 crore. But remember one thing, the exceptional losses, they are at only 14 lakhs versus an exceptional loss of 16.5 lakhs in the base quarter. But nevertheless, I expect the stock to be in green today. Back to you.
Okay, Naveen, thanks a lot for that. And Sonia, Motherson Sumi, again a big upgrade.
Yes, big upgrade. In fact, the target price has been raised by HSBC. They've raised the target price to 425 versus 376 earlier. They say that there's a lot of innovation and cross-selling that the company is doing, especially in order to remain competitive in the electric vehicle space. So that's the new space that everyone's trying to, increase their stronghold in. And Motherson Sumi is doing pretty well. They're on track to reach their FY20 target as well, the revenue target that they have. Just want to mention that the market cap of Motherson Sumi has now almost touched 80,000 crores, and the stock has had a phenomenal run this year, up almost about 70-odd%. So I expect more green on that name. But Abhishek, you're watching IIFL Holdings as well?
Well, Sonia, Ashburton Investment is looking to merge its India Equity Opportunities Fund with IIFL AMC. Now, Ashburton's India Equity Opportunities Fund size is about $112 million, while IIFL's fund size is about $4 billion. So this forms about 2.7 to 2.75% of the book. Positive for IIFL. Back to you.
Thanks, guys, for all of those stocks. Here's a quick recap now for top 10 stocks. And it's one of those days when every single stock is in the green. Arvind, RCF, SCI, MOIL, Island FS Engineering, Federal Mogul, Sharda Motors, UCAL Fuel, Tech Mahindra, SBI, Thyrocare, Jet Airways, Ultratech Cement, and Motherson Sumi.